and you can share it with your daughters and your nieces and that sort of thing. And conscious cycling, I've managed in the last year to really get the tincture of what we need to focus on to make it really easy for you to put in your pocket and work with. Okay, so very simply, 4 stages, 4 steps to this process, and I'm just going to discuss these 4 steps for you. So is everyone with me? Is everyone good? I can get excited and just go. So like, keep me human. Yeah, thumbs up, hearts. All right. Okay, good. Okay. Your reassuring smile always does it. Thanks so much. And Corinne. Although, thank you. Right. So the first phase of conscious cycling is the section just before we bleed. And guys, this applies also if you are perimenopause, menopause, hysterectomy. If you are energetically cycling, this still applies. I've tested it with beautiful crones who I've been so privileged to meet on my journey, and they've been very patient with me as we test this theory over and over and over again. Okay, Khaletso, sorry your internet is unstable. I mean, it might help if we turn our cameras off, but I'm hesitant to do that. We are recording, so I will send you the recording. Okay, so the first step in conscious cycling happens just before the cycle comes. So this would be what we consider autumn, when the leaves are falling and the lining of the womb is getting ready to shed. And we could go so deeply into what the seasons of the cycle mean, but I'm not here tonight for that. If we have time, I'll bring it in, but we can have another call next month and just go into the seasons, for example. But this week before the cycle comes is the one where we really need to be conscious, even if you're energetically cycling, of provide me space. Right? It's a time when we really have to provide ourselves space. So that's PMS, provide me space. And the thing about that is that there's a lot of people out there who don't know that PMS means provide me space. I need space. Even if I'm energetically cycling, let's just give a little bit of airtime to those that are energetically cycling for a moment or heading in that direction. The easiest way to pick up your cycle is the moon, right? So women will either cycle at full moon or new moon. Generally, not, I mean, there's some women here who are cycling today and we're between moons at the moment. But if you're trying to find your cycle energetically, you just need to spend maybe like up to 4 months just charting your energy every day, and you'll start to see a pattern that I'm either really low and more easily triggered on full moon, then you know you're cycling energetically full moon, or you energetically more sensitive and all these things around new moon, then you know that you're cycling new moon. So it's just to establish where's my sensitive time in the month. And then you're like, oh, okay, so it was this full moon, but was it just the full moon? Maybe it was just because the full moon, I had a little bit of lunacy going on. And then you gotta take a few months to really find where is your, so I always say 4 months, even for conscious cycling, what we're going into tonight. It takes you 1 month to be like, what is she talking about? Is this relevant to me? Does this work for me? And then the second month, you're like, oh, wow, okay, I can see kind of how this works. And then it's the third month that you're like, oh, wow, like, damn, I really got this. Like, I can see how my body's communicating with me in this way. And by the fourth month, you are living conscious cycling. You're living it from month to month to month to month. And then it becomes a guide to tell you when you're off track. That's a whole nother thing. But okay, so women who are energetically cycling, give yourself time to get used to finding where your cycle might be. And those who are new to conscious cycling today, give yourself time to figure this out. It doesn't just happen overnight. A baby doesn't grow overnight. It grows in 9 months. So I like to tell everyone, give yourself 9 months to really get your hands around this. Okay, so going back to the 4 steps in conscious cycling, provide me space. We live in a world where we don't have much of that. We don't all live in the wild coast where we have endless land around us, like Stella does. If you want to go and have a wild vacation in the wilderness, that's your gal. Take her name down and follow her. So a lot of us are very suffocated by life because we have schedules, we have bosses, we have deadlines, we have children, we have partners, we've got like traffic and bills and all these things around us. And it's really easy for us to be naturally overwhelmed. And the week before our period, what I've observed happen is that we go into a very heightened state of awareness. Am I supposed to be pinning this picture? Let's try it for a little bit. If it's too much, I'm going to unpin it. That is a bit much. Okay, so what happens is we go in our premenstrual time, we go into this very heightened state of awareness where, like, my vibration is just different to your vibration. Like, I'm very much in tune with a higher vibration because now I'm connected through my crown to creativity, creative energy that brings life. And I'm connected through my root because my lining is getting ready to share. And so what I've called this vertical state of connection, it puts you into a very high vibration. It makes you very sensitive. So what happens is if my boss comes into my space asking for this thing that I am already working on and I go, rawr, like that is your sensitivity from your heightened state of awareness. But if we know that about ourselves, we can at least provide me space. We can at least start to create space for ourselves in our world and in our reality so that when someone does come and rub up against our signal, their signal's a bit lower than our signal, like we can at least manage it a little bit more gracefully and with a a bit more awareness. But that's conscious cycling. I'm still going through all this stuff, but I'm doing it consciously. So if someone comes into my place, I can approach them from a place of self-respect and mutual respect. They don't know. They don't know that I'm in my premenstrual phase. They don't know like that I'm vibrating in tune with the cosmos right now and connected to the earth through my root. So the first stage of conscious cycling is provide me space. And that is your PMS. So if you are in partnership in a relationship or you have kids, a really good way to manage this is to let people around you know that I'm going into my sensitive time, you know, and I'm just going to be a little bit more sensitive. They know, but the thing is they will just rather call you like the moody bitch that week. And you don't want, that's not a good name for us. Like we do a lot as women. We do a lot to keep things together. So what we can do is we could just flip that on its head by being conscious of ourselves. So, you know, just letting the people around you know that I need a bit more space this week. I am going to be a bit more sensitive. Like just work with me. Maybe you can just help me out a little bit more than you usually would this week. You can just start to, and kids as well, if they're old enough, if they're young, I get it's like, it's a juggling sport for a few years. But provide me space is essential to the next part of conscious cycling, which is now step 2, stage 2, which is our activated intuition. So the activated intuition happens only because you've provided me space. If you have not provided me space, you're not going to have your activated intuition. So now what happens is we're starting to move more towards our winter. And the winter is when the bleed comes. So we're not quite there yet. We're still in this heightened state of awareness. So when I said only if you've provided, yeah. So women who live together, their cycles, but Calypso, your poor hubby is always overwhelmed by our raging hormones. 4 girls and 1 man. Can you imagine? Like he knows there's just a lot of energy. That's what it is. It's not that my 4 girls are crazy. As a man, he just knows there's a lot of energy. But why is there a lot of energy? Because you are in this vertical state of connection. Because creation is about to flow through you. You are connected to the energy of creation. And so that's a lot for a man to handle, any man to handle, let alone one with 4 girls in his house, the poor guy. Yeah, he can like run baths for you and make dinners for you and pamper you. Like that's what would have happened back in the day when we were living communally, is that the woman would go and retreat because they would bleed together and then they would groom themselves. But now we live in a strange world. So we have to deal with what we've got going on around us. So, okay, you provided me space. Now that means that you're tuning into this vertical state of connection. That means you're in this very heightened state of activated intuition. I want to share with you what I've learned from 5 years of training facilitators. The only thing I'm actually doing is giving women the confidence to trust their own intuition. That's all. The rest is just frills, because if people are paying, they need things. Like I see at the end of the day, that is, women are just so scared to own their intuition. They're so scared to trust their intuition. It's really been ripped out of us that we can trust ourselves. So activated intuition, I'm giving you permission by just saying this. Activated intuition is because you've provided yourself some space when you're in a heightened state of awareness. That means that as that flow starts to now move through your body, whether it's physical or energetic, and this is where Crohn's have the upper hand by not physically bleeding, because they start to move energetically through this all the time. Crohn's are always plugged in. Crohn's, I mean, I had Mara in a training now with me for 6 months, and I had Corrine in another one with me. Crohn's are always plugged in. You know that because when you're looking for wisdom, the granny's sitting in the corner watching the crazy family. What is she doing? She's weaving her web energetically to keep this crazy family together. Because she's past her crazy phase. She's now the wisdom keeper. She's holding the wisdom in her body already. And so she is still cycling energetically with the new moon or the full moon, but she's constantly connected to creation because she's about to cross over back into that space. So I like to share, when I talk about the crone wisdom, about how sad it is that our wisdom keepers are like in old age homes, because we need access to that wisdom, because we need guidance, right? We're a lot of women in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and we need guidance. But those people who have the wisdom are not accessible. Like in village life, that would be the king and queen, right? So I just want to really uplift crone wisdom. And perimenopause is the transition of losing everything you thought you knew to get there. And I'm just going through that, you know, myself. So I'm really speaking on a personal level about how that feels for me, and all of you will have your own interpretation of it that are in your perimenopause stage. But yeah, so this activated intuition is running through you very strongly in that time of provide me space just before the cycle comes and when the cycle is flowing. Trust your intuition. If somebody is getting on your last nerve, that is your own inner critic telling you, this isn't right for me. Your body is telling you that this person, place, or thing is not right for you. And you just have to tune into the womb wisdom to trust that. But this is because we've had generations of unprogramming from trusting ourselves, way back to witch hunts and stuff. It's very hard for us to trust ourselves. So working with conscious cycling, I've never seen someone that I've trained not shift that paradigm. Once, if they come in as a woman who's not sure of themselves and their sense of power and worth and intuition, like conscious cycling always shifts a woman back into like a sense of self at the very least. And that's from honoring your intuition, your gut instinct. There's that expression, gut instinct. I feel it in my waters. We're just reinitiating you back into that. Okay, so activated intuition, trust it. There are messages coming through you. You are in a heightened state of awareness. It's a gift. Number three, I like these messages. Everyone liked to comment. So this Daniela Farnfield, it's not my Danielle. It's another one.
It's Daniela. Like, we met a couple of years ago and I did a one-on-one with you.
Hello, darling.
Hello.
It's so lovely to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
Okay,
Thank you.
amazing. You've come in a little bit of the way through, but we are recording and I'll send you the recording. And you're
Perfect.
here at the right time for you. So here you are.
I'm already on track. I get what you're speaking about.
Oh, I can see your face now. Lovely. Okay, good. Awesome. Nice to have you here. All right. So number one, provide me space. Number two, activated intuition. Number three is what I call the golden breakthrough. And if you follow the teachings of the Red School, they call this whole process the big bleed. They're like, every month you're going to go into ceremony with yourself. It's called the big bleed because it's a really amazing time to process stuff. And we'll talk about that as well just now. But so the third one I call the golden breakthrough. And again, this is just from my experience. Your experience will be different, maybe, right? But at least I'm showing you a little pathway that you can go explore and then find out what's true for you. Because what's true for me is not necessarily going to be what's true for you. And that's where I've got a saying that you can brand onto yourself, observe with curiosity. So if people come to me and they're like, oh my God, I haven't bled for 2 weeks and now I'm bleeding for 2 weeks and then I stop for 2 weeks and then I bleed again for 2 weeks. Must I go to the gynae? I don't know what's wrong with me. Observe with curiosity. I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers. Your body has the answers. Don't freak out. Your body will not let you down. Like, of course, go to a medical professional to like put your mind at ease and or do all those things. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. But your body has all the answers. So observe with curiosity. That's interesting. I wonder why my cycle just suddenly stopped. Let me sit back and watch how my body is processing reality and what's happening around me. Okay. So golden breakthrough is, in my experience, as I was saying, is that after your cycle comes, about halfway through the cycle, and that's different for everyone. If you have a 3-day bleed, then like it's 1.5 days in. If you have a 7-day bleed, it might be 3 days in. So I'm down to like a 1-day bleed. It's just in and out, golden breakthrough, done, done, done. So just check in for yourself. Where does the golden breakthrough come for you? It's different for everyone. But what happens is, first, I provided me space. So now I can hear myself think and feel. Number 2, I tuned into my activated intuition so I can actually trust what I'm thinking and feeling. And then number 3, the messages come through and you can actually hear what it is that your womb is releasing. You can actually hear that as this lining is ripping away from this womb, damn, man, that's that like traumatic thing that happened to my grand that I'm carrying. Bleed it out, girl. Bleed it out, woman. Like, but you get the message. You do get the message, but you have to have honored the previous steps. Maybe you're like going through a really hectic time with a breakup, or your partner is going through a really hectic time at work, because we weave for our family, we weave for our community, especially if you're full moon bleeding. If you're full moon bleeding, then you're definitely weaving for your partner and for your community. Definitely. So, that painful, heavy cycle, like what's going on in the last month at work, you could be releasing that for this big project you guys have been putting out there. If you're new moon bleeding, then it'll always be about your family, like directly your partner, your mother, your brother, your daughter, your son. You'll be processing. New moon is nuclear. Full moon is big community project stuff. The full moon has a lot of light. It shines light on large areas so that we can go and play drums and dance around the fire with neighboring communities. Back in the day, like, it's a very big light. It's a very big thing. But new moon, it's dark, it's intimate, it's your immediate family. So, the golden breakthrough is telling you what your body is releasing. And you can hear it if you have entered into conscious cycling. But this fades after a while. Like, once you've nailed conscious cycling, like what I see is that takes like 9 months to 1.5 years to really nail it, where it's a way of life. And so what happens after this initiation period, for those of you that are new to this information, is then it just becomes a way of life. Like, those ceremonies are not a big deal anymore. They're just, life is just passing through you. You've learned to just release and release and release. And this is the maturity that comes through conscious cycling. We're always going to have drama. We're always going to have trouble with something, but we can just release it through our cycle. We don't have to hang on to it. Like, if I'm not conscious cycling and I've got heaven and earth moving through me and I don't know it, of course it's going to present itself as pain or endometriosis, or that's a bit more complicated. But for example, okay, so golden breakthrough is for you to bring conscious awareness to what the body is metabolizing and processing. Then number 4, the final stage, is the sacred release. Finally, now I know what I'm releasing, and even if you don't know, it doesn't matter. But you can take what you've shed. You can take what's moved through you, whether it's yours or your partner's or your grandmother's or your communities, and you can offer it to the earth, because the earth is our mother. The earth is our home. The earth gives us life and food and everything. Like, you know what? When I first was working with this, I was living in community, and I always share the story. There was a man who saw me offering my cycle, and he was like, "What are you doing?" But he was like a very conscious man, so I could share with him, what I'm doing. And then he said to me, "Oh, that's like he said to me, the earth is taking a survey. And I just looked at him, I was like, what are you talking about? And then he explained to me that in permaculture, you put a seed of like a tomato underneath your tongue, and then you plant the seed, and what happens is that the tomato will grow the nutrients you're lacking. So the tomato will grow with extra zinc and calcium or whatever you need. It like the earth can do that. Think about how the earth reclaims cities. The earth regenerates. That's what she does. She provides and she regenerates just like any woman. So, so that's what he saw when he saw me doing that. He's like, okay, so you're giving her all your stuff so that she can give you what you need. And I was like, bro, you know, he just had all the answers. I didn't even know why I was doing it. It just felt good for me to share my body with the body of the earth, and to hear that from a man who had automatically related it to farming, I guess, in a way, was quite profound for me. So, you know, take what works for you, leave what doesn't. It doesn't matter. But the sacred release is the fourth step. So that is my sharing here tonight on, you know, sure, 10 years nearly of working with conscious cycling. And let me just see if there's anything else. So that would be your winter. That would be your winter is the actual cycle. And then the week after your cycle is when you go into your spring, and we've got a little bit more energy. The estrogen's getting a little bit higher, and we're feeling more girly and more playful. And then summer is when we like going 100 miles an hour, and we can take on anything. And the boss can give us 10 contracts and 10 deadlines, and we're like, bring it. You know, it's a time of the month where you can do that, but you also need to honor the time of the month where you really just can't do that. So, so that's like just touching lightly on the seasons. And I think I want to touch lightly on the gateways of initiation as well, because there's so many people in different stages here of their cyclical journey. And so what happens is when we are not bleeding and we first start bleeding, that is the time of the maiden. It's when the girl becomes a woman, and there's a whole initiation in that because the innocence changes. You know, a little girl can really be free in her body. And as soon as she becomes a woman, she really has to step into a sense of self in a way that she didn't have before. There's this definite grieving the loss of innocence. And different cultures celebrate that in different ways. So it's an initiation into another stage of womanhood, or the initiation into womanhood, and it can really affect how we see ourselves as women, whether that was celebrated or over celebrated or not celebrated, or in fact was traumatic or shameful because our family like just didn't acknowledge it, or you bled in public or whatever. Then the next gateway of initiation is the mother. So this girl who has grieved her innocence came into a sense of identity. But now, when this girl becomes a mother, and you don't have to physically be a mother, but it's just a stage we go through from in our 30s, even 20s, 30s. But the stage of the mother is another type of grief. The stage of the mother is where we grieve the identity that we just discovered, the sense of self. Oh, I love my hair like this. I love my nails like this. I love my outfits like this. And I love my social life like this. There's this identity that we have spent 10 years creating from the age of 15 to 25, and we're very comfortable with it. It got us our man, or whatever the case is. Now suddenly my body gets disfigured and I've got puke on me and poo on me, and so now we start to go into a grief of that identity that we had created, the loss of the identity, the loss of the sense of self. And then we are gaining this thing of nurture. It's an ego death. I am not the most important thing in my world, because now my child, or if you don't have a physical child, you will probably mother your community. That is more important than what I look like. Suddenly what I look like is not the be all and end all, but what I'm taking care of. The nurturing really starts to come in, like Mother Earth. The homemaking, providing security and shelter for yourself, safety for your children, and that sort of thing. Okay. And then what happens after the mother, when the kids are like teenagers and they're finding their own sense of identity now, is that we go into the stage of the enchantress, and this is perimenopause. So enchantress now becomes about purpose. It's like the grief that I see has happened even before I was in the stage myself, is people grieve the life they didn't have, that they thought they were going to have. When you were younger, you pictured your life was going to have all your ducks in a row and your pension fund and all your shit sorted out. And now you like 40 something and you're like, oh my gosh, like life looks so different to how I thought it would look. And there's this big grief there, but it catapults us into, okay, then why am I here and what am I doing? What is going on around me? It's like, it really is a midlife crisis, to try and figure out who you are and what you're doing here, because now suddenly time is impermanent, much more than if you were younger, right? So it comes with a lot of grieving of what might have been, and the kids you might have had. Even I've even seen women who had 3 kids and they're going through this epic grief for the 4th kid that they didn't have, that they wanted to have. Like, it's relative to everyone in their own way. Grief and gifts that I've seen with the enchantress is that personal empowerment, like of not having to please everyone around you all the time. Like, wow, what a big exhalation that I don't care what you think. It's a sense of self in a different way. It's the beginning of that real, like, strong matriarch. It's the beginning of it. I don't know because I'm going through it, but we got all these beautiful crones here. So the next crone, the next stage is the crone. And I'm not sure what she's grieving. I've got it on notes here that somebody else wrote. Tanishka, who wrote Goddess Wisdom. She's amazing. She was like one of the first people to do this, along with Anita Diamant, who wrote The Red Tent. So I'll pop those in the chat if you remind me. So the crone is, as I was saying, the wisdom keeper. Like, seen it all. Is there another word instead of crone? Well, a crone is a crown, so you can just call her a queen. I don't know, matriarch. I don't know. I don't know. So the crone, the wisdom keeper, well, that's the other word I use anyway, instead of crone, is wisdom keeper. So the wisdom keeper keeps all the knowledge. She's been there, done it, and she's ready to cross over. So I'll share with you what I have in the notes around that, so I can speak to those people going through that phase. Okay, so the perimenopause, this is usually a time in our lives when those in our care assert more independence, so our kids grow up, giving us more time and space to consider who and what we want, who we are, what we want. This is also a time when many women make their mark in life, make a difference, put their efforts into creating a better world. We have the inner power and confidence to assert our voice, share our wisdom, inspire others, and create a life that reflects our deepest values. Oftentimes, this is caused by a life-changing experience such as illness, divorce, job loss, or loss of a loved one. The lesson is about healing past wounds, developing self-trust and resilience, and the shadow is about reclaiming our personal power by expressing our authentic truth. So the wisdom keeper, the crone, 60 plus years old, the cessation of the menstrual cycle indicates a shift from the material world to the inner, the spirit world. This is when our psychic gifts become more pronounced. And if we haven't understood this, we can think that we are going mad, losing our mind. As a result, our third eye would shut down. Energy blockages here can create dementia. To cope with the decay, I don't know if I would want to say it like that. I don't want to make anyone think that they don't have control of themselves if they want it. To cope with the decay of our physical body, we need to expand our consciousness to gracefully accept our fragility with dignity. I mean, wow, just imagine that. Like going through the fragility of the stage and trying to accept it with dignity. The dignity of an elder. We're also navigating our fear of death and the unknown. And it's like right there, it's in your face, hey? So the more we develop our connection with existence, which I've been calling creation all along, same thing, the easier this transition becomes. I'll say it again. The more we develop our connection with existence, the easier this transition becomes. But I can imagine it's still not easy. Focus. So the lesson here is to focus on self-actualization in preparation for rebirth. That's a beautiful way of looking at it. The shadow is to return to innocence through reclaiming the magical child within. Okay, those are all from Tanishka's book, Goddess Wisdom. All right, so I think I've spoken into everything I wanted to. I wanted to do a heart womb breath with you. It is 8 p.m. now. So, Lebo, hello. Did you finally come right? Did you get to hear any of this? Are you good? I think so. All right. So we are at 8 p.m. We are at closing now. I wanted to, yeah, I agree. Looking forward to reaching the age of the crone. She's so, so special. True. So I'd like to do the heart womb breath with you as a way of connection in closing, but I also wanted to give some airtime to questions. But now I realize that would probably be another half an hour. You missed the first 15 minutes. I know. I saw you trying to connect. I'm so sorry that you had trouble with your audio, but I'm glad you got to be here for a little bit. And there is a recording, and I am going to email it to everyone. So thank you for joining us for as long as you could. So yeah, I mean, if any questions have come up with you, please email them to me. I'll be happy to go into it with you. I am doing next Thursday evening another session on creating spaces that are safe for women to come together in their cyclical awareness. And yeah, there's lots of learning around this, and I don't want to really put too much information in your space. In October, there's a 1-year facilitation training that I do around all this content. But email me if you have any questions. What I'm sad about saying goodbye now is that I love how questions help other people to process and integrate what they're trying to process and integrate after a call like this. I've never just ended a call without doing that. So this was an experiment to have this session, this talk. I've not done this before. So let's see how it lands. Email me your things and what you think you could need or change or whatever. I'm open to receive everything. But I'm going to close now with a heart womb breath to settle and ground the energy and connect with yourself. I understand it's 8:03 if you need to go. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us. I'm going to endeavor to try and do this and be no later than 8:15. Okay. How are you doing? How are you all doing? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, thanks, B. Thanks. I know it's a lot of information, and I have a lot of energy. So let's see if we can settle all that for you now. Everybody, lift your arms up. Just to do something to dissipate all the energy. Let's lift it all up. Take a big, big breath in. And just throw your arms down and inhale up and throw your arms down and inhale up and throw your arms down. Let's do it as if we're like shaking the week off of our bodies. Just shake the week off of you. All right, good. Okay. Let's, oh, that's because you're moving, right? That you got your little yellow hand up. I get it. Okay, so let's do some heart womb breath to close. So what we're going to do, I'll pin again. Okay, so what we're going to, my cat just wondered what I was doing here, I'm sure. Okay, so we're going to start with our hands here on our heart. And to begin with, start to feel how your breath is moving underneath your hands. And really exaggerate that for yourself so that you can feel settled. Taking big breaths into the space underneath your hands. And just keep doing this till you feel settled in your body. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our hands down to the womb space. Even if you don't have a womb, you still have this creative space in you. It doesn't matter if you're like gender fluid or if you're a man or anything. You don't, it's not about the womb necessarily. There's a lot to that, but just the space above your pubic bone is the sacred space. Yeah, okay. Mama Hao, thank you very much for joining us. So just placing the other hand down to above the pubic bone, one hand on your heart and one hand just low down above your pubic bone. And again, feel your breath underneath your hands. So what we're doing now is we're breathing from the upper hand to the lower hand. We're connecting the heart to the womb. And this comes from a pregnancy practice of connecting to the baby. And it really creates a sense of balance and harmony between these two spaces. So what you have in your head is mental knowledge. What you have in your heart is feeling knowing. Your ability to know through feeling. What you have down in your bottom hand here is the deepest inner knowing. It's beyond your head and it's beyond your heart. It is the deepest sense of knowing, and that's that gut instinct. So just connecting your heart to your deepest inner knowing and breathing between these two centers as a means of welcoming yourself home to yourself. And I'm going to give some people a minute or two to just come back home. You've been on all these crazy trips around the cosmos this year alone. So it's really indulge in this opportunity at the end of this long week and long day to just come home to your sense of self and your deepest inner knowing. And then when you're complete, you can bring your upper hand, your lower hand to your upper hand, back to your heart, both hands back to your heart. Okay. So there we are, we're complete. Thank you for sharing an extra 12 minutes with me. I wish you a lovely evening and reach out anytime. Most of you have my WhatsApp. You can reach out to. If you don't have my number, I'll quickly pop it in the chat here. And you can also just WhatsApp me if you've got questions. I don't want you leaving feeling incomplete or weird. The book names, okay, so the one is very controversial, Space, The Red Tent, by Anita Diamant. And then thank you. And then the other one is Goddess Wisdom by Tanishka. Thank you. Aw, thank you. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you. Okay, so if you've got those book names or the WhatsApp information, bye. Good night. Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Night. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.
Bye.